welcome to another exciting episode of Token Cast Reviews. I'm your host and sometimes referee, the friendly neighborhood Zach Stat Pearson, and today I'm joined by a new challenger. Here he comes, longtime legendary battle and longtime legendary X-Man fan himself, Owen Covington.
Hey, thank you for having me on, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and don't worry, man, and hopefully if things go well, it's the first of many. Well, first and foremost, let me just tell you, since you are blatantly brand spanking baby new here, that we do have certain rules and regulations. Number one, we don't like surprising the people who are nice enough to come on this show. Everything we do is not live broadcasted, so if at any point in time you feel like you quote-unquote misspoke, let me know, and I can fix it in post, or we can edit it out and you can say something different in post. Second thing, we know that everyone likes to make jokes, and we know that as long as they're not intended to be malicious, that something you say that might not be perceived as a joke will be in fact perceived as such. However, if someone asks for clarification, please do give so. There's a difference between everybody getting along and having fun, and someone basically telling you that they're a hateful bigot or they will go on a murderous rampage if they get the chance. Not that that's ever happened. So, you know, keep death threats to a minimum unless they are of a comical nature and it's easily to discern in court. Other than that, you already know, we are very friendly and we are respectful, not tolerant. We respect the LGBT plus whoever comes after the T community, no pun intended. So, any form of hateful bigotry that's intentional, I understand that there are accidents, will not be tolerated. But, I already know I ain't got to worry about you. Last I checked, much like the quote that Ali gave in the middle of court about Vietnamese never calling him nigga, I have yet to run into an LGBT person, who's even worthy of making me hate or disrespect an entire marginalized group of people based on their preferences. So I feel like we're not going to have any issues there. Plus, we're X-Men fans. We're kind of dyed-in-the-wool anti-racist bullshit anyway. Like, you can't be an X-Men fan and a racist and have an IQ above 2.
Exactly.
So as if the title, but yeah, let's get into it. As if the title wasn't already a dead giveaway, we're going to be talking about the entirety of X-Men 97. Now, when I say the entirety, what I mean is the entire first season. There will be spoilers. Duh. But, please take it with a grain of salt. We're just giving our opinions as dyed-in-the-wool fans, people who didn't even learn what X-Men were until the TV show came on initially back in, 92. Fun fact, it didn't start in 92. It ended in 97. So, all right, let's get into it. The first question is the writing, the good and the bad. By which I mean, give me some key moments. We'll say 3 of each, or if you don't have 3, that's fine, because we'll be here all day if we go past 3. Maximum for everything we discuss is 3, just to be clear. I'm gonna go first. So for me, the good parts of the writing, first off, the entirety of the first episode. Like, I just want to highlight that first episode. But outside of that, one of the things I think is a strong part and what makes the writing good is that universally throughout the entire series, at no point in time did they try to, for lack of a better term, look down upon or PG-13ify their stories and what happens to the characters in the stories. Because I'm gonna tell you something right now, the closest you got to risque in the original show, besides the gratuitous embiggening of certain body parts, which I'm not going into, it's been memed to death, is that the closest you got to a risque for children episode or situation story writing wise was the fact that Jean Grey and Wolverine were kind of sort of implied to potentially want to run away with one another. A married woman who got married during the course of the show, and here's Wolverine always gunning for them redheads. By the way, he still does that in the comics. He's always gunning for a redhead. So,
but can you blame him though?
The fact that you get into this show, the fact that you can come here, we can get into this show, and one of the first things that we learn about is that, Wolverine has calmed himself down. As far as I'm concerned, I think it might just be because of the pregnancy. I think the pregnancy might have been the thing that really did it. Okay. But the writing is really good. The way that they incorporated, and one of the second thing for me is the way they incorporated Cable's origin story, because I'm sure you know that, just as everybody, since Marvel Comics timelines in the future are never stable, you never know what is real, what did happen, or what did happen now but 10 years later it didn't happen. Retcons, retroactive continuity, or post-cons, post-active continuity, whatever you want to call them. Cable was always kind of sort of ambiguous, as was Bishop. But in 2011 or 2012, Bishop's entire backstory got thoroughly explained. That man went basically 20 years or 30 years without having his actual backstory explained. Cable, I think it was even worse. Cable's backstory didn't fully get explained coherently until 2 years ago. But also at the same time, because of future chaos and timey-wimey bullshit, you can say that Cable actually has 2 future timelines that are both active concurrently. You know how weird that is to say? Like, I'm not watching Loki, but Cable's giving off Loki vibes. So that's the second one. Now, the third good moment, and I know this is going to be fucked up for some people, it is how they handled the relationship of Xavier and Magneto. Mind you, you don't really get to see the depths and layers of it until literally the last episode. It was the way it was handled, because in previous titles, sometimes they're friends in certain episodes and sometimes they're enemies, and then sometimes they're just completely devoid of one another. The X-Men deal with Magneto while Charles is going to stay at home, even though it's his best friend. Like, he's extremely less active. But here they said, no, we're going to make that relationship one of the, background situations for character development potentiality for the whole entire first season. They're barely in the show together, but when they get on there, it's like Dr. Dre and Eminem getting on the track at the same time. You just get that energy off of them, even if they're not doing shit, because there's a difference between Dre working on music and Dre speaking on a track. 2 different things. So yeah, those are my 3 good moments. And no, I could go far beyond that. In fact, as a bonus, fuck it, I know I said 3, but fuck it. Everything that happened to Gambit right before he died. Gambit, and it's a good thing his name starts with a G, because Gambit went out like a G, man. And for the record, no, I'm not saying I have some advanced plot knowledge, but I'm saying Gambit will be back. But he went out like a G. Oh, my soul. Now, as far as bad moments, look, bad moments for me are concentrated into 2 places. Number 1, how they handled introducing Forge. Everything about that. It felt rushed, it felt out of place, and it was very, very fucking confusing. And this is from someone who remembers the last couple episodes Forge was in the old show. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Second one, ironically, same place. Everything that happened with Storm in the Forge episode and the episodes pertaining to Storm getting her powers back. Also, this weird thing that they keep doing with the female characters, with the exception of Rogue. Why is it that Jean and fucking Aurora Monroe have some like Power Rangers Sailor Moon fucking transformations into their new outfits? That makes no sense. Everybody else is putting on an outfit physically. Even later in the show, when they have to go back to their old outfits, they put on a fucking outfit. But for some reason, Jean, or rather Madeline Pryor, not sure where she even found time to make that outfit, but Sinister's a nasty motherfucker. He probably made it, I'm not gonna lie. And then Storm, when they get into this shit, when she gets her powers back, she just magically manifests a new outfit. That makes literally no sense to me. It was one of the only things that truly made me think someone wasn't paying attention. Everyone else physically puts on an outfit, or they just wear their outfit. I've never seen Bishop in casual clothes. Like, it's kind of weird. I think they forgot to make a casual outfit for Bishop. But then you get here, and for some reason, specifically those 2 do it. And the third thing for me was, I think I told you this before. I hate will they, won't they in any kind of story. Doesn't matter what it is. I hate when there is a will they, won't they, and it doesn't have a conclusive they did it or just they didn't do it, right? So believe me when I tell you, I hate that for some reason, there is nobody who thought to themselves, the shit with Morph came off kind of weird. Mind you, it didn't come off weird till the end of it. But now I'm more confused and annoyed because I want a straight answer. No pun intended, based on the sexual preference talk. But Morph being best friends with Wolverine didn't bother me. I don't think it bothers anybody. We never got to see them truly explore their friendship because quite literally, Morph's job was to basically show up once or twice a season and then go away. In the old show, Morph literally, I don't think he amounts to even a full 20 minutes of screen time or a full hour of screen time in every single episode he's in collected in the old show. So it's nice seeing more of Morph. But when you see Wolverine, who should have been healing right now, because remember, his healing factor increases when he has no adamantium in him. But, you know, different show, they can do different things. When he turns into Jean Grey and says, "Logan, I need you," that's when it crossed the line. That's when it went from, oh, okay, this is a homie missing a homie, to, okay, Morph, you looking kind of sus right now, bro. You looking kind of sus. Now, don't get me wrong. It's been long held belief that shapeshifters in any form of media don't have to adhere to one sexual preference. That's not the problem. The problem is they literally do this in like the last 3 minutes, 5 minutes of the fucking episode. It came off kind of weird. I actually stopped what I was doing, got up and physically replayed it. I think they're trying to imply that there's a new love triangle. It's not Jean Grey, Scott, and Wolverine, because they tried to imply there was another love triangle with Gambit, Rogue, Magneto, and then, you know, Madeline Pryor, Jean Grey, and Scott. They keep trying to do that, but Wolverine comes out of it because everyone else is in a love triangle except for him, basically, right? Him and Bishop. But then you get that shit, and I'm just like, whoa. And just to be clear, I want to clarify, I don't think that's bad because I don't think anyone should be gay for Wolverine. I've been in actual conversations with gay dudes. Trust me, Wolverine has a fan base in every single sexual preference there is for humanity. He's just that much of a fucking indirect playboy. Now, an indirect playboy is somebody who can pull down a lot of people, but they were never trying to in the first place. There's always going to be some room for that manly, rugged guy, no matter how tall or short he is. Wolverine fits that bill. He is the personification of it. The man walks into a room when he's at home and you can tell he puts his feet up on his table and he's either got coffee or a beer in his hand and he's watching the fucking game with his friends. Wolverine is the embodiment of that guy. He is the most American Canadian you will ever meet. Next to the natives. You can't out-American a native, but that's another story. So I'm okay with that. My problem is they did this whole sing and dance shit. If you really stop and think about it, who got the least lines again? Morph. So I really want them to better respect and flesh out Morph, because now that we got him for a full entire seasons, he's going to be a permanent mainstay of the team, and the teams just got switched up. They need to go out of their way to explore Morph. I don't care if they're exploring his sexual preference. I don't care if they're exploring his character. They need to not do these fragment shits, because that shit was really, really weird. I don't know if you caught that. Okay, I'm going to go on mute, and it's your turn. 3 good moments in writing, 3 bad moments in writing.
All right. So I would say my first bad moment, because I got to start bad, would be the cringe love triangle between Logan, Jean Grey, and Scott. It was very awkward. We all know what was going on with it, but it just felt so out of place for the very beginning episode, in my personal opinion. The next thing I would say would be starting the episode with no background knowledge, just saying that Professor Xavier died. Is like you're putting us on a cliffhanger at the very beginning, and I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know what happened. Even though they gave us the brief backstory of what happened, it wasn't enough to satisfy me as far as being able to understand how did we get here? Why is everybody in such an uproar? Why is Magneto all of a sudden like the main guy, even though he's always been the main guy? And the last bad thing, I guess, for the writing, as far as the writing goes, why they do that to Gambit? Like, my biggest gripe is I understand why. Like, it makes sense because nobody else could defeat him, and with his abilities, it makes sense for him to destroy the thing that's really, taking out everybody. But overall, I just hate to see how it all led up to how I don't even know how to phrase this. Like his ultimate demise. He got his heart broke, and then he had to sacrifice himself for the greater cause, and it still wasn't enough. Go ahead. I'm listening.
No, I just wanted to say it again. He went out like a G.
Oh, definitely. But it was a sore spot for me. I would say some better parts of it were like you said before, the more detailed backstory of Cable, because I was just a light X-Men fan. I tried to get into it as a kid, and I settled on Gambit being my favorite character right off the bat. And I seen this random guy with this metal arm from the future. It was crazy to me, and I loved it, but I didn't understand it. He was just like the random mysterious characters on video games. Like you don't know what he does, but he seems like he's going to be a very impressive character. Another positive feat is that I love the fact that they did give us more depth. Yes. Okay, so moving on to my third point. I kind of lost my train of thought. I liked how they gave us a big bad and then an even bigger bad, and at the very end of the season, they gave us like the boss level of like super villains without knowing who he was. But I mean, no diddy. I knew by the mouth paint like who he was. So I'm like, oh crap, we're gonna get something like crazy next season. So spoiler alert, if you guys haven't seen the final episode, we're gonna get Apocalypse, the younger version, before he, became all crazy. And just where the teams are now, I see that there's gonna have to be a lot of compromising and a lot of unwillingness to help. But they're gonna have to figure out how to fight through that in order to get back to their present timeline.
I said, okay, is that it for you?
Yeah, that's pretty much it for me for right now. I can't really think of anything else.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go and start off animation / art style real quick. All right, so for animation and art style, 3 good, 3 bad, but I guess it'll just flow into itself like more of a general statement than like a hand-picked moments. So for the animation, I like it. Are there some strong spots? Absolutely. Are there some weak spots? Not many, to the point where it's actually hard for me to openly remember them or consciously be aware of them, which is a good thing you want to do. You've done your job well as an animation studio or a company when people can look at your work, the consumer can look at your work and immediately think, I can't tell if there's any good or bad right now. That's a good thing. Also, animating hair is hard. The longer it gets, the harder it is. But you can see what they kind of sort of did. They made thick ass outlines so they can part them, or they will know where the hair is at any given time when their hair is in any state. That's the only time I have a problem. When it came to the hairstyles, depending on who it was, the characters who had long hair, even medium hair, sometimes it just didn't come out right. It literally looked like it was so stiff and lifeless that they literally just photoshopped the hair in one position and they moved it along with the rest of the character. So that bothers me. They put more detail in the hair instead of taking away from it, which would make it easier to read on screen. Also, I don't know if you noticed this, but after episode 1, Gambit's hair, especially in episode 2, sits up way too high, to the point of basically looking like Storm's hair without the fucking mohawk tail on it. Like, if you look at his hair and his positioning in episode 1, then you go back to episode 2 when he's sitting on the couch and shit, or when he's just eyeballing Magneto like he want to kill him, the first thing you'll notice is that fucking Gambit hair was tilting upward. It's almost like it's too detailed, to the point of, for the whole episode, it felt like it was off model. Now, for those who aren't familiar with that term, off model means rare moments or consistent moments where the characters do not look like they're supposed to look, because everyone who animates is given direct reference to these characters. They know what they're supposed to look like from the front, side view, and back view. But Gambit's hair got taller for some reason. However, you know, it was only that episode, I think. I don't think it happens in any of the other episodes. And, you know, right before he goes out like a G, he's got a completely different hairstyle. So the way I'm looking at things, I consider that one of the only true issues. Now, as far as the art style, I can't remember who they based it off of, but thank you. Because you got to remember, they said way in the beginning, one of the only things they've done with the character designs is they're not changing their outfits so much as they're updating and making the characters easier to draw without losing the style, aesthetic, and the themes of the original show. They did that to a T. However, it's not a bad thing, but it was something I noticed. I couldn't get over the eyeballs, how more detailed they were, how expressive they were. The faces in general were expressive. You know, the way the noses and shapes were built, they did a good job naturally. But what blew my mind is that it almost looks like here's the original characters, but we just changed the face. Like, you could take these characters' heads and put them on top of the 92 bodies, clean up the animation, and I would think I'm looking at the 97 animation. I say that term, you know, relatively speaking, based on the title of the show, not the year 1997. Jubilee being one of the more noticeable ones, because let's be honest, you couldn't really distinguish Jubilee's ethnicity or even come close to it in the original show. I know a lot of people who thought she was a generic Caucasian girl. In fact, I think they won't admit it, but we all know that the X-Men characters, especially the minority ones, get completely disrespected in the live action Fox shit. Jubilee got it worse than almost everybody. Let me tell you how bad it was, bro. The very, 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 very first X-Men movie, they made her a Latino girl. The second movie, they made her a Latino girl. She doesn't show up anymore. Now you get to Days of Future Past, not Days of Future Past, whichever movie came after Days of Future Past. I did not watch that movie because my soul was getting hurt too much by the stupid shit that they do, right? And not only do they have a Jubilee who is finally Asian, but she's there for like 2 weeks of filming. They do like 20 minutes of scenes with her, and it doesn't go into the movie. Can you imagine how that actor must have felt?
That is crazy.
Yeah. But then you go in here and it's like, okay, we can actually tell what Jubilee is. It's distinguishable. I've even had some of my friends who only watch the show and they love X-Men, like the games and stuff. Like, they didn't know, wait, Jubilee looks kind of Asian. It's like, she is Asian. Jubilee's Asian? I thought she was Latin. I knew exactly what they meant. The only time people thought Jubilee was Latin was in the live action movies, because they kept not casting Asian people to play the Asian character. So, you know, that's a whole nother mess of things that we can't really get into, but we all know how it is. Sometimes studios change some characters' ethnicity because marketing tries to demand it, like the stuff going on with Henry Cavill, or sometimes directors and writers don't give two shits and they feel like they can do what they want to do. They can do anything they want to do with somebody else's property, which that generally bothers me, that you would be that disrespectful. And sometimes they didn't even give a shit about the character, so they don't give a shit who plays the character. X-Men live action is in one of those unique places where all things are true. Sometimes they don't care about the character. Sometimes they didn't give a shit about respecting the property. Sometimes they just did what they wanted to do, and it doesn't turn out right. That's why they have such inconsistent movie quality. It's because there are too many people trying to do everything except respect the characters. And that's why Marvel succeeded where DC and X-Men out in Fox live action failed. In the animated space, DC characters get respected. Stories have always been better. They've always gotten better reviews. Live action space? Hell nah. People propped up Zack Snyder. Now that idiot thinks he's actually a good writer. No, he's a good director. He is a terrible writer. He should not be trying to write or pretending he can write. But no, he does just that. But we're not going to get into that.
You mind if I...
Got to act... What's up?
You mind if I put a caveat on your point real quick? And this is no bashing towards Marvel whatsoever, but I find that we did get the DC comics, their animations, their movies, their animated movies. They were more fluent and true to the comics itself. And we went from having that to we get a live version of X-Men, and nobody sticks to the script at all, in my personal opinion, for none of the movies.
True. How does every single African character, except for Storm, who magically disappears, how does every single African character get killed by their own ability?
I have no idea.
And it's only the African characters. That's what really bothers
me.
Like, normally I would have chalked it up to, okay, we have a team of people who don't want to respect the property. No, it seems intentional and malicious at this point. Intentions and malicious. Storm has character assassination to the point where we've practically never had a proper representation of Storm in live action media. Is it Halle Berry's fault? Technically, but also it's not, because she got tricked into taking the role. But also, guess what? Halle Berry is not meant to play Storm. She's the wrong everything. She is the wrong ethnic mix. Storm is pure blood, whatever that even means these days. She speaks, she's bilingual or trilingual. Also, she's actually a brown tint that you would associate with Africans. Halle Berry is half fucking, what is it, French or half fucking Dutch? She only speaks English, and she learned French recently, but that's still not the problem. She only speaks English. And then if you go to the other girl, apparently she was really good at disrespecting Storm online to the point where don't nobody want her to actually play Storm. And she was like, well, good, fuck y'all, I don't want to be Storm. It's like, okay, bitch. And I'm not getting into that. Like, I didn't actually follow it. I just saw bits and pieces, and I was like, you're playing a character you don't respect. Then you shouldn't have even gotten a role in the first place, and you shouldn't have auditioned for it. That's the thing that people keep forgetting, that I don't care how a person looks. I care is the character being respectfully represented. And in order for that to happen with Storm, you basically need to have three requirements. Be a good actor. Be of African birth and genetic descent, meaning you better be like 1% or less of anything else that didn't come from the motherland, and you need to be bilingual. I don't make it hard. Should she be tall? Yes, but finding tall women is not something that is actually easy. Reminder, they usually get 5'6" or less. All of them total the whole world. So I give leeway for that. Does she have to be extremely attractive? Technically no. But it's Storm. She was literally made to be beautiful. Her very first introduction into the X-Men as an adult They even implied that she was beautiful and she had quote unquote ethnic features that came from all across the world. However, they said it in a very painfully offensive and derogatory way, but they didn't know it at the time, and no one's mad at them because they literally didn't know it at the time, and they have since clarified it. And Claremont is not himself a racist. I've seen that man multiple times, and I respect him. And I understand that he just didn't know no better. Also, you know, he's gone on to not be malicious or do anything malicious in relating to other ethnicities since then. So it's completely understandable. You can't tell somebody what they didn't know at the time. There's no time machines yet. Oh God, I don't want to live in a world where there's time machines. So, you know, don't get me wrong. Like, I can completely understand where everyone is coming from on some level. But the main thing I have to remind people is that you have to give caveats. But back on the art style, yeah, the special effects, the way they did combat, and how there's actually more than just, oh, here's a punch with a flash to show someone got hit, or here's somebody standing perfectly still, but we animate their arm to show that they fired their gun. Bro, they actually put effort into it. There was actual effort. When I saw Magneto for the first time pull up from the ground a bunch of fucking people while giving a monologue about, don't make me the monster that you think I am. And he pulls these motherfuckers in an electromagnetic barrier into space and then puts them down calmly. When you see Cyclops literally boosting around this fucking area to hit people, which I always wanted him to do that. It seemed like something he would easily be able to pull off. But he should probably jump a little bit so he doesn't fuck his shoes up. Because, you know, eventually he's going to be grinding his feet on the ground. That's not going to be too fun. So, fucking, I'm just over here like, yo, they're trying to step their game up. And they even, here's the cool thing people don't realize, they actually made the characters' special effects look like they do in the comics. When you see Sunspot or any character shooting energy and there's these weird black balls in them, that is exclusively something that Marvel likes to do with their characters that use various forms of energy. It was cool. Everything that Rogue did in combat. And when Gambit fucking, oh my God, that motorcycle, like, I'm not even trying to resist spoiling shit. It's just, they understood the assignment. They have combat that looks like it should be in the modern era, but it also fits X-Men. That's what I like about it. The art style, to me, if I had to grade it, I would give it an A-. The only downside, like I said, is that the shit that they're doing with the hair, for the characters with long hair, it needs to be refined, or it needs to be adjusted over time, which I'm okay with that, because remember, the X-Men's outfits and costumes aren't stagnant. Maybe except for Gambit, because Gambit just never ends up in a better outfit. He just ends up in temporary outfits. But they may want to consider making the hair do something or look different, or just animating it differently, because it actually draws my attention, but I can't tell if it's in a good way or a bad way. Alright, so, you know, I yapped on too much. Alright, so how do you feel about animation and the art style?
So, I'm not gonna lie to you. My first thought was, I felt like I was watching the original X-Men from that era when they first brought it on. And I was like, oh dang, did they really just like dig back in the crates for this and just polished it up or something? But as it progressed, I can see that the episodes had an intentional graininess to them, like you're watching them on like an old recorder, like an old video recorder, and I was perfectly fine with that. I'm gonna say that I don't have too much opinion on the art style in itself, but there was bits that I noticed that kind of stuck out to me. Was the episode where Jubilee and Sunblock had their video game episode. I love how they transition back and forth between the continuity of the episode itself and the art style of the episode itself and the actual video game styling. I mean, I was just over the moon for that part, just personally. And I don't know if anybody's seen it or not, because it was such like a short glimpse, but at the like during episode 10, we had the massive cameo of other heroes and villains fighting throughout the world, and we had this one moment with Doctor Strange in the operating room, and it was like probably like the clearest. It was probably like the clearest, more modern version of the X-Men, or sorry, just the Marvel Universe that I've seen throughout the whole show. Like everything else was good, don't get me wrong, but that one right there is just showed the progression in itself, like how far it's come from its origins. Let me see. I'm kind of with you as far as your earlier point when we were talking about the goods and the bads. I feel like the characters should have got more outfits and more explanations for the changing of their outfits, because the whole Storm going from white to black outfit, it was kind of like, why are we doing this? But I understand, you have to kind of progress the story and to explain. And there was no clear explanation why she switched to a black outfit, just as there's no clear explanation why Jean Grey wore the Phoenix outfit instead of her regular X-Men outfit. Like, there's no explanation for it. We love it. It's the nostalgia factor that kind of puts you in that high for that moment. And we're not going to argue about it, because who doesn't love nostalgia? I think that's really all my major takes for the art style, because like I said, I was mostly watching it for the nostalgia of the series.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your opinion, man. And I'm glad, that I wasn't alone with some of my beliefs and whatnot. That is really, really good to know. All right. So, this is the tough one. So we gonna move into favorite moments, maximum 3. Okay, first and foremost, the last episode. Basically, the entirety of the last episode. We got to have true character depth with Magneto, which you pretty much couldn't do, because anytime Magneto does character development on the X-Men show, it's like barely a few seconds or minutes, or it's just showing that, hey, sometimes Magneto's good. And, we just know he is a Jewish boy who unfortunately was Jewish in the wrong place at the wrong time. And he suffered losses that no child should have to suffer. We all know that. We all get that. Right? But when you see that the nature of his relationship with Xavier is that I see you as a kindred soul. We all knew that. Some people just have friends that they bond with, not even because they have so much in common with each other, but because they have ideals in common with each other. Like, I've said this for the most point in time. Like, I've told my friends, y'all think we get along because, I respect you, you respect me, or because I can bring brevity and levity and comedy into situations where there would be none, or someone just needs someone to talk to. That's true. But this is a case of two things can be true. The reason I'm with my friends the way I feel is because we have similar ideals. I wake up in the morning living in a country where I acknowledge that they will do heinous and terrible fucking things. But in that same breath, in that same instance, there's someone fighting somewhere to make sure shit like that can't happen in the future, or it gets harder to do in the future until we get to a point of some form of world peace, or at least in-country peace. Something like that. And I got a group of friends who know I respect them and I cherish them because they got to deal with shit that few people will ever understand, because they have gotten into the life of being a double minority or they are a singular minority. Doesn't matter if it's ethnicity based or LGBT based, or they come from a background where their parents were racist, bigots, and all this other shit. Despite me not having that background, minority one aside, I can bond with them and respect them because we have one goal in mind, and that is the empathic acceptance and respect, not tolerance, which they love using that, of each other or each other's existence, but not to the point of letting someone abuse that respect and empathy and get away with a bunch of bullshit. Me and my friends get along because we have similar ideals, whether they realize it or not. That's how I think. And every time I look at the X-Men, when not just Charles Xavier, but when all the characters, even Storm, talk about, listen, we're not trying to make things worse. When Cyclops says, we're trying to be better than you are, because if we were just like you, well, everyone would be Magneto, and there would be a lot less human bullshit going down because people would fucking kill humans on sight instead of the other way around. So that was one of my favorite moments when whenever the X-Men are talking about, listen, we're trying to be friends. We know we can fuck you up, but we're trying to be friends. Second favorite moment. Now this was more specific. When Madeline Pryor and Storm are sitting on the bed while Madeline is pregnant, and she says, is it fucked up that I wish my child would be only a human? That really hits you, because that conversation is something I've had with my friends who have mixed race babies. Not all of them, but some of them. And they tell me things like, hey, I can't tell if this is really messed up that I want my child to be light skinned, not because I hate myself or my people, but because I don't want her to get bullied. I want her to be less bullied. I want her to try to, have it somewhat easier than I did, etc., etc. And I tell them, it is fucked up, but it's not fucked up because you're a terrible person. Some people perceive it as such. It's fucked up because you know how society works. Lighter skinned people in this nation are perceived as either an object of affection, pets, or they are just considered somehow a lesser of two evils. And it's really messed up. And it's almost worse if they're attractive. And I just thought to myself, like, man, whoever wrote this might be speaking from experience on some level, because that type of writing was tailor-made for someone who knows they live in a place where they may not be accepted for not even who they are, but just being born different. That hit me on an emotional and a personal level. Now the last moment, okay, I'm not going to say Gambit again because we did that too many times. For me, one of my favorite moments was when we got to sit down and we got to see for a brief moment all the X-Men being happy when they were at Genosha or Muir Island, whatever you want to call it. Was it Genosha or was it Muir Island? I can't remember what it was called.
It was Genosha.
Yeah, when they were at Genosha and they were fucking happy. And when Nightcrawler showed up, bro, Nightcrawler, people don't believe me, or at least my Catholic friends don't. Nightcrawler is the reason I have any respect for Catholicism, which is a weird thing to say. I won't get into the long version, but let me tell you something. As someone who does not care if there is a God, I can respect people that believe in a God, but I don't care if there is a God, because I'm going to tell you why. Most of humanity's problems have and will be solved by human beings. People will claim a third party did it, but good luck proving it. So, and I've met a lot of Catholics who are just straight up hypocrites. They say they want peace, love, and understanding and respect, but they don't want to give it when it's time to give it. They just want to pay lip service, and then they want to vote to remove somebody's civil rights. Like, to the point of, by the time I was 12, I can call up at least 40 incidents of somebody being homophobic, implying people of a certain preference are pedo files, and all this other stuff. And I was like, nah, fuck it. Y'all some backstabbers. I can't fuck with y'all. Like, at all. I can't fuck with y'all. But I would just leave them alone. Right? So then here comes Nightcrawler, and one of my friends whose dad was a reverend, was a nice girl. She basically taught me, listen, those are traitors to the cause, because the cause isn't converting non-believers. The cause is supposed to be peace, love, empathy, and understanding, and respect and love of your fellow man. Love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And then I said, I can't think of nobody that acts like that. I was like, didn't you ever watch X-Men? And I knew exactly what she meant. So I have a deeper connection with Nightcrawler than I do religion and religious people, because he's the one that taught me how they're supposed to act. And ironically, without me being a Catholic, my views and belief system align a lot with Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler will not fuck you up if he don't have to. Wouldn't fuck you up if I don't have to. But Nightcrawler is also one of the most skilled fighters, and he can fight with 3 goddamn swords. He's been like that. He's been an Olympic class swordsman for like 20 years in the comics. It never got represented in a TV show, and then they did it. So my favorite moment is a character, and it's Nightcrawler. I deeply respect him. Okay, and he's not even real. Okay, so, all right, your turn. Favorite moments, maximum 3.
Oh man, there's so many moments. I think I'll start out with the heaviest moment of all during the series, which is when Rogue made the decision to kill the Doctor. If it wasn't for Morph's small comedic input into it, the weight of that moment alone, before we found out that he was a partial robot, was controlled, the weight of that moment alone was just too heavy for me to even try to continue watching the show just in that moment, because it became too real. Because we seen her go on this warpath of vengeance for the man that she loved but she could never have, and that speaks volumes in itself, because you're willing to burn the whole world down because of the person that you love was lost due to the ignorance of the masses. I loved it from start to finish. Her encounter with Captain America and just flinging his shield into the next dimension, if you will.
Let's go, damn. Okay, so when she's talking to Captain America and then she takes his shield and she says, "Oh, so you not gonna help me? Well, if you're not with us, you against us." Even though he's explaining like, "Hey, I can probably go find out about, this stuff, right? I can go look into it. Let me help you out." It's like, "Nah, you want to help out? Nah, come on, bust some heads." Like, no, it's not that simple. It is that simple, but for the sake of depth, it's not that simple, right? And then she throws his shield into the mountain. Wouldn't it have been cold-blooded if she said, "Go tell it on the mountain, sugar"?
That would have been great. I'm not gonna lie to you. That would have topped it off. Oh no, man, you're just fine. That would have been great. I think my second favorite moment in the series would have to be when we actually figured out what happened to Professor Xavier. Because like I said in the beginning, I came into it with so much confusion. I had no idea what was going on. I thought he was like dead, even though I know the X-Men's MO is they never die. They're just somewhere else and possibly maybe reincarnated later on down the line. To find that he's living a whole nother life in a whole nother galaxy with the same struggles that he was facing on Earth, on a whole nother planet, it just took the cake for me. Like at that point, I'm just like, is it him? Like, cause it can't be everybody else. It's got to be him at this point. Like, you can only be idealistic so far until you have to have action behind your ideas. I'm not saying that to say that you have to act on everything that you think, but he was very much so a pacifist in life and death, and life again, because of course he came back. But explaining where he went and showing that he was trying to get everybody in another, I would say, universe, to be more passive just speaks to the depths of his character overall. I loved it. It was kind of like a, why are we getting this moment? But then when they start to thoroughly dive into his stance on anybody, you don't have to be of the same creed, you don't have to be of the same religion, you don't have to be of the same species, right? You just have to understand that what you do to somebody today may affect you and them tomorrow, because there's always going to be a bigger bad. There's always going to be somebody who's going to want to take your place and your power. And seeing that he sacrificed everything in that moment to go back and, as he said, save his children, because he physically felt that he lost a child in that moment when Gambit died. I know we said we're not going to bring him up again, but in that moment when Gambit died, it was everything across universes just stopped in order for him to receive that message. And I found it crazy, but I loved it. I loved it nevertheless. And what was our big bad guy's last? What was his name again? I can never remember because I want to call him something else.
Yeah, I keep thinking he is Sentinel Prime. That's like my name for him, but no, that wasn't his actual name. Fuck, let me.
Can I give an honorable? Sorry, what was that?
According to Villains Wiki, fandom, Sebastian Gilberti, better known as Bastion, is the main antagonist of Season 1 of the Disney Plus animated series X-Men 97, the sequel series to X-Men, the animated series.
You caught that?
Okay. Yeah, I caught it. His name is Bastion. So, the most surprising part is that, for me, is that I feel like in the very end, he wanted to believe Scott and try to make a change, but at the same time though, his level of villainy would not have let him do any good. So to see him go away the way he did, and Magneto swoops in to save everybody, I don't even know how to explain it. It seems like it's very poetic that the villain becomes the savior, and the villain becomes the savior, and the other villain is just like poof, vanished into thin air. We don't even have to talk about him no more. We have to speak about his actions, but he's no longer even a factor. But his view rather, on the whole mutant population is that of the humans, which I found kind of weird, because you took your time to infect enough people in the world with your mutant ability, saying that this is going to be the thing that stops them from hurting us. But in actuality, all you did was just create a bigger problem, which they were steady pressing the button on all throughout the season. You're making the problem worse. What do you think about that? Because in my opinion, I feel like he was right, but he was also wrong. He went about it the wrong way.
Well, if I want to be honest, first and foremost, let me just say, that's how you know you did some good writing. Because a clear-cut, by-the-numbers villain is not an interesting villain. They have to do something that makes them interesting. Unfortunately, if you go through a villain's backstory, it's very common for people to become, empathetic to their story, and they start to, in their heads, make up excuses for them. However, that's only if you go into their backstory without showing how much of a monster they are. Because at some point in time, people stop caring how you get the way you are, and they start caring more about, can they stop you, or how you get stopped, by death or by words. That's what I think about
Right.
Bastion. I think the biggest issue with Bastion is that at a fundamental level, he will never stop. He is literally his own worst enemy. He hates mutants. He is a mutant.
But he also hated humans in the same level. I'm not gonna say the same level. He hated humans as much as Magneto did, but like to a more level where he was really ready to push the button and just eliminate them. And Magneto, he was more so like the buffer. He was more like the idle threat. I'll keep giving you chance after chance, but I'm gonna show you that I can, but I won't. And I feel like if he had the Professor X kind of mentorship, then, like they said, we would have got another founding X-Man. We would have got another Omega level X-Man mutant, if you will. And I would say my last favorite moment, and I mean this is for the more sappier people, was the moment when Cable was in the diner. He was, trying to heal up or whatever, and Jean and Scott, they came in telepathically and talked with him and had their goodbye moment with him because they weren't able to do that originally when they sent him into the future. I feel like that one right there was the one that kind of tugged at the heartstrings the most, because it was like, how many times do we get the opportunity to say goodbye to somebody when we know it's going to be the last time that we see them, but we never actually do it? If that makes any sense. And for Cable just to take it on the chin and be like, all right, man, I'll see y'all later. I know I'll see y'all later. It'll be all right. It was kind of like an overflow, if you will, of emotions for me, because I'm like, man, like I said before, you don't get that opportunity to say goodbye. And
it's almost goes double for you, because it hits you on two emotional levels. Because here's a group of parents who wanted to be the parent of their child, but reality decided, nope, fuck you both, you ain't gonna be doing that. And then when you realize that you may not make it, or you don't know how it's gonna play out, you get the chance to go, listen, I didn't get to raise you, but that does not mean I didn't love you, etc., etc. I get it on a personal level. Mind you, I don't have kids like you do. I totally get it. And it made sense that they actually, for the first time in the entirety of the series, now that they know who Cable is truly on some level, they were able to say, listen, I know you ain't had the best life, but I regret not being able to be in it. It was a beautiful moment, but Cable had to be basically Wolverine 2.0, and he's like, yeah, well, you do what you can. And then to see him temporarily turn into a full character instead of being that I am 90s stereotypical cool character and go into an actual child of a parent, it was bittersweet, because I know they're not gonna die. But what really ruined it for me, and sorry to hijack your shit, but what ruined it for me was that when you go back to the next 5 minutes of the episode, there's Cable right there all over again. I was like, what the fuck, man?
Right. And can I give an honorable mention, if we have the time for it? I would say that the way Beast handled the reporter on Genosha when she just flew in out of nowhere, and most folks would try to just do the paparazzi thing, take pictures, and try to spread the scandal. They both quoted, I think it was Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, about how a certain group of people suffering will never be the answer to your bigger problem, which is your humanity. You're afraid. You don't know what the future may hold, because there's a new future riding shotgun right along with you into your future. Like, we know that the X-Men universe is divided with mutants and human beings, but I love the way that they played on the fact that it was literally almost down to a racial component. You're this group, I'm that group, and we won't see eye to eye together because you're too different. Overall, everybody's literally the same. We all think the same. We all speak the same languages in regards to whatever region of the world you may be in. But overall, we're all based in the same way. We just have a difference, which is normal in human beings to have a difference in appearance, in size, and any other varying factor to defer you from the next person, to keep you from looking like a carbon copy, and to show that in that moment with Beast, he is a giant blue man, or sorry, a giant blue monster, but he has the compassion of a love-struck fool in this moment. Well, that's a bad reference, but it should fit. He has the compassion to say that these people did nothing to nobody. You wanted them away from you. They got away from you, but it wasn't enough. What do you want? Like, I mean, we can't get rid of ourselves, and we don't have plans on going anywhere because we can't go anywhere because you will still feel threatened by us even if we leave. That was kind of like the heaviest punch without knowing it for me, because he did it so poetically. And I think that's pretty much what I'm gonna end that on, because I got a little emotion about that one.
Yeah, that actually went some deep places, man. But that's not a bad thing. In fact, bro, you made me realize just how bad Beast got it. Not in the show, but in general. Because you got to stop thinking about it. Beast was a valedictorian student, and he was the captain of his football team, and he looked human. Then he started trying to quote unquote fix himself by messing with his own DNA, and now he looks the way he does. So he is which is a rarity. He's almost like a double minority mutant. He is a mutant who has mutated his own genetics to the point of no longer looking like a human. And the fact that he can go up to people who call him freak, mutie, beast, monster, and then quote Shakespeare or quote some famous philosopher, that's a lot more respectful. Don't get me wrong. I'm kind of sort of old school. I'm going to do something from either the Rogue, Wolverine, or Gambit playbook. I'm going to say something snarky back to you, or I'm going to beat your ass until I don't hear you talking anymore. Am I in the wrong? I mean, technically. But if you have to question it, then obviously that means that somebody was deserving it. Again, Wolverine will tell you to your face, leave me alone, or I can fuck you up. I would prefer not to fuck you up and be left alone, but I will fuck you up. Rogue the same way, but with different words. Like I said, it's the same ideology. It's a group of people with the same ideology, not the same personalities. Because half the shit that gets said to fucking Beast, if you said to Wolverine, he'll pop a claw just to get you to run away. Or if you don't run, cool, I can stab you without killing you.
I'm sorry. That's so true.
Yeah, and Gambit, well, he's the pretty boy. You hate Gambit, you just mad because he might steal your girl. He probably won't. But if you keep calling him out his name, he probably will steal your girl. Or if he doesn't steal your girl, he may steal what's in your wallet. The final closer for this. Who do you want to see in future seasons? And this is going to be a treat for you, because I know you're going to be Googling some shit because you've never heard of these mugs. Now, of all the X-Men I like and respect, there are some that I feel get shafted in every sense of the word, in media, in books, and in everything else. And who sits at the top of the list? None other than the King of Kings himself, Nathaniel Gray, aka X-Man. Yes. The other white meat. So, for those of you who don't know, there is a version of Cable who never got infected by the virus. Same parents, just no technological virus infection that he has to do 24/7 even when he's unconscious to make sure the virus doesn't spread on a genetic level. That boy's name is Nathan Gray. Nathan Gray is so powerful by himself that his power doesn't have a limit and it won't stop growing. He by himself can rival the Phoenix in energy output. His list of possible abilities is in the dozens. I'm not going to go through them all, but two of the ones that are the most notable, he can materialize things from the astral plane. You know that place only a select few fucking telekinetic people and telepaths can go to? Yeah, he can actually physically manifest shit from there. He can also take light particles and shape them into anything he wants. He is literally a Green Lantern with an infinite battery. That alone is scary. Right? And they rarely ever use him in every sense of the media. Number 2. Now this goes in more of the crossover section. I want to see fucking I want to see the Defenders as a group work with the X-Men. Now, for those who don't remember, they are the Heroes for Hire, but their technical name is Defenders. The Defenders are literally superheroes who you can commission like private detectives to solve a crime or fix something that might involve law enforcement or a dangerous element that law enforcement can't necessarily tackle. They handle the things that are in between superheroes trying to take over a city or rob a bank. Right? They've had Iron Fist and Power Man are two of the most consistent members. Jessica Jones, who went to school with Peter Parker, by the way. And occasionally they have other rotating members relating to those two. So I want to see them, instead of having one person crossover, I want to have them do like a whole little 2-episode or hour-long special where it's both groups doing something. I don't care what it is. And the last thing I would say...
Mind if I ask a question real quick? Wasn't Luke Cage and Daredevil also members of the Defenders?
Yeah, so you could have them come in there too. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And the final one, I want them, these X-Men 97, to have an episode. Oh shit, can you hear me? Can you see me? Hello?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, yeah, Discord being weird again. I want them to have one episode, just one episode, where the X-Men accidentally go into another dimension and they're live action. And they look like how they do in the X-Men 97 show. I want one half or full live action episode. I know it's not going to happen in season 2, but maybe season 3.
That will definitely break the internet.
Bro, I thought long and hard about my 3. That's why I can flow through them so quickly. Okay, your turn, homie.
Okay, I'm a sucker. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. We seen in the beginning of the picture of the original X-Men. I'm sorry to tell you, I don't know what happened to Iceman. But if there's a possibility for it, I would love to see him make a comeback or make a slight cameo if possible. Just for another nostalgic purpose. Like, because I seen him in the original picture at the beginning, and I was hoping for him to kind of do like the Wolverine thing and just show up whenever he wants to and just, mildly help out like Spider-Man and then just disappear again. I would have loved it. I would love to see it. I'm not really sure. Oh, here's a one. How about Legion? I know Legion is a...
Oh, man.
Further...
I got a very
interesting
book you might like, but continue.
I know Legion is a further on thought of what... I know he's a further on down the line character, but just to take apart from your playbook, I would love to see them go into an alternate dimension where Professor Xavier actually gets to meet Legion and help him master his powers or get some kind of general control over his powers in order to help them, just to help them in some way, because his character alone, him being the ultimate mutant, is outrageous, and him not getting the proper screen time that he deserves is blasphemous. And
bro, I'm about to make your day when this recording's done.
Just to be a sucker for it, because I mean, I don't know why I liked her, but can we just get a small little snippet of Mystique, just for the people who loved her, just loved seeing her as a character when they were kids? It was like, oh my god, she's blue, but I mean, hey, what can we do with this? And also if we bring in Mystique for just even an episode, that'll probably allow us to get closure on her and Nightcrawler situation and be able to finish up his backstory for the folks who don't know about it. Yeah, I think that's my 3 that I want to see so far.
Oh man, that's not bad, bro. Like, all of that is pretty decent. I'm definitely gonna, the minute we get done with this recording, I definitely got a book or two you're gonna want to pick up. I gotta make sure I get the title right though. All right, well, with that being said, as an honorary mention, because might as well, we're at the end of it, I want to see an RPG based off of X-Men 97. I want to legitimately work on it. I want to be involved with the process in some way, shape, or form. I don't care if I'm an ambassador. I want to work on it. It needs to happen. We deserve it. I'm tired of these characters getting DLC outfits or alternate costumes you have to unlock to make them look like the TV show. Let me get a game with them. We never get a game as them. The closest we got was the Super Nintendo X-Men game. That's the closest we got. Yeah. And you could play Psylocke, who barely was in the show, literally, Gambit, Beast, Wolverine, and Cyclops. And it had two games to it. That's the closest we got to anything resembling those particular X-Men from the TV show. They look like them, but they weren't them. No, give them a game.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'm going to piggyback off of your suggestion again and ask for. I would rather much so prefer a Red Dead Redemption style open world version of an X-Men game, which allows you to play with all of the characters. And this is just my personal preference. So you can, if you are new to the X-Men scene, or if you are a long time committed lover of the show and the comics, you can actually get a chance to play out your favorite characters, and each one to have their own individual storyline that kind of combines to the main plot. I feel like that would really put them in a different ballpark altogether. But that's just my wishful
how
thinking.
many TV shows can say that, oh yeah, this is based on a comic book, this TV show is based on a comic book, but the TV show is so good it got its own comic book? Bro, they've done that like 3 times. 3 times. When we were little, they were actually in the age of apocalypse, so everything you saw didn't happen except for that one episode where Wolverine and Storm went through time and they changed time. That was the actual dimension they were going through in the comics when we were little, right? So they had this other one to help kids get into X-Men or Marvel called X-Men Adventures. That was the people from the cartoon in comic format. Then it ended when the show ended. Then they went in before 97 was even a thought. They made X-Men 92. X-Men 92 came out like right when I think the Disney merger first started or something. And it ran for like I think 1 volume. And then they said, oh, 97 has now got its own cartoon that is own comic book that is completely canon, and it fills in missing gaps in time that the characters will reference in the show, right? And as you know, I got the first issue autographed. and for you guys looking in the background, let me just take off this text now. This artwork is from that specific issue, and this one is drawn by Ross Dodderman. Yes, I think that's his real last name. And you can see that he respected the characters. It's not that he knew what he's doing and he's a good artist. He is, not going to take that away from him. But you can see that Ross cared about how they looked and the quality of his work. Dude, shit is beautiful. It really is. But yeah, with that being said, I will see you guys in season 2. Have a good one.
Bye.
Okay, let me close out this episode.